My aunt loved that house, loved being home. It gave her memories of her husband.
Monty Puma says her aunt, 92-year-old Lily Scalia, would never want to move out of her house. Lily suffers from dementia, but she and her husband plan to live out their last days here. Sam died in 1995.
My aunt would tell me that. Your uncle said, if anything should happen to him, live in this house, stay in this house.
That's a promise Lily has not been able to keep. Puma says Santa Clara County took her aunt from her home and eventually moved her into an assisted living facility.
Started as a family quarrel, and Adult Protection Service came in.
Some members of Puma's family didn't like that she and her father were living with Lily after her husband died. The Santa Clara County Public Guardian's Office and probate court investigated and determined that Puma and her father, Scalia's brother, were taking advantage of her by living in her home rent-free, using her money, and neglecting her medical needs. They are also accused of harassing the public guardian and Scalia's health care providers. Puma and her father denied the accusations, but the two still got evicted from the house, and Scalia was conserved by the county.
Our aim is to protect them from any kind of financial or physical abuse that they may have been experiencing.
Director of Santa Clara County Aging and Adult Services Lee Pullen says the Public Guardian's Office is the conservator for about 800 people, making financial and health care decisions for the conservatees, such as Lily Scalia.
We want to ensure that they have a comfortable lifestyle to the degree that they're able, and that we can make the decisions for them that they're not able to make for themselves.
One questionable decision the Public Guardian's Office made for Scalia was taking out a reverse mortgage on her home to pay for her care. Is it proper in your mind to take out a reverse mortgage, the county to do that, when the person is not living in the home?
My understanding of the requirement of reverse mortgage is that you need to live in the home.
Pullen is right. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says a person getting a reverse mortgage must live in the home, and if the borrower is gone for more than 12 consecutive months, the loan becomes due. Lily Scalia has been out of the house for 2 years now.
We certainly wouldn't want to violate any HUD or banking regulations.
It appears the county is in violation. They got the reverse mortgage in November 2010, moved Scalia out of the house October of that year, and she hasn't been home since. When we first visited the home in September, faded tags over the door jambs indicated no one had been inside for a while. After hearing from the I-Team, HUD is reviewing the case.
She said I wanted to go home from day one.
James Sullivan is Scalia's court-appointed attorney. He says he objected to the reverse mortgage and doesn't believe Scalia's brother took advantage of her. Even more important, a year ago, a probate judge ordered talks to begin to move Lily back into her home. Sullivan claims he reached out, but the county didn't act.
The county doesn't listen. You know, the judge can't micromanage these people. The judge leaves it to the professionals.
If a person or an organization chooses to ignore a court order, they could be held in contempt and damages could be applied.
Santa Clara Superior Court spokesman Joe Macaluso points out someone would have to tell the judge an order isn't being followed before the court would act. No one has told the court the Scalia order has been ignored.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Now, after we started asking questions, the Public Guardian's Office has decided to move Lily Scalia back into her home. Sources say she should be back by Thanksgiving. Puma says she's heard it before.
I'm very skeptical. When I see it, that she's here at home, then I will believe it.
We'll stay on the story and tell you if the Public Guardian keeps its word and moves Mrs. Scalia back home. If HUD finds a problem with the reverse mortgage, the loan may come due, and that could lead to her being forced out of her home again through no fault of her own. Now, tomorrow at 6, the county is accused of isolating the clients they are supposed to serve. We'll hear from a woman who says she feels like she's in prison. That's tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
All right, Dan, thanks. Well, Santa Clara County's Public Guardian's Office is facing criticism tonight.
Yes, some families tell us that the county is isolating their elderly loved ones, unnecessarily taking control of their entire lives, right down to who can visit.
Dan Noyce is back now with part 2 of our I-Team investigation.
Well, Dan and Caroline, I don't often get the police called on me for a story. It happens, but I didn't expect it in this case. All I did was ask to see a couple of ladies whose families say are being isolated by Santa Clara County.
I need my family, and they took that away from me. You know, what else can they take?
That's the voice of 82-year-old Gisela Reardon.
I can do anything
I know.
from in here.
I know.
Because this is like a prison.
It's like a prison?
She suffers from dementia, and her son Marcus made the recording during one of only 3 visits he's been allowed with his mother in more than 2 years.
They hijacked my mother.
The Santa Clara County Public Guardian's Office conserved Gisela, took over her personal and medical decisions in 2010 after she visited hospitals 19 times in a single year. A court investigator determined her family, including her son, could not care for her.
Maybe there were family members involved with the person, but they weren't caring for that person by the appearance.
Lee Poland is the director of Santa Clara County Social Services. He would not speak specifically about Gisela's case, but said the public guardian does not conserve a person without cause.
It would have to be a constellation of situations. Was there money that was available to provide the elderly person care that she needed, and it wasn't being provided?
Marcus was living with his mother at the time the county took over. He says he loves her and was doing the best he can.
My mom wants to come home. We have a home. She has food, clothing, shelter. I can take care of her. I was taking good care of her.
But the public guardian kicked out Marcus and sold the house to pay for his mother's care. He ended up living in his car for a time, and Gisela was ultimately moved to an assisted living facility.
This is devastating. My mother and I are very, very close. We have always been very close.
Marcus is clearly frustrated with the situation, and a court investigator wrote he becomes hostile toward facility staff, yells, becomes disruptive, and overwhelms staff with his demands. So the public guardian got a court order restricting his visits with his mom. They must be supervised. Marcus says he recorded their last meeting to protect himself from what he calls the public guardian's lies.
They have done it to me, taken everything. Why? I'm not a criminal.
Okay.
I haven't done anything.
You managed to make your mother very upset.
I didn't make my mother upset. She's upset, sir. Quick.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to turn off your tape.
Giselle clutched my arm and sobbed onto my shoulder for an hour talking about how lonely she is.
Linda Kincaid is an advocate with the National Association to Stop Guardian Abuse. She says not only is the public guardian restricting Marcus Reardon's visits with his mom, but all of Gisela's potential visitors. Kincaid was able to see her twice before getting kicked out of the facility. She says 18 members of her group have tried to call and set up visits with Gisela. All have been denied.
If the laws were followed and her rights were observed and honored, this would not be happening.
Kincaid points to the Notice of Conservatees' Rights, a document in every conserved person's court file. Unless a court limits or takes away a right, like visits from family or friends, then the conservatee retains the right to have these visitors. And California Code Title 22 states a resident has a right to have his or her visitors, including ombudspersons and advocacy representatives, permitted to visit privately during reasonable hours and without prior notice.
If you took your grandmother and locked her up in the spare bedroom, you could go to jail for that. But if the public guardian does it to your grandmother, it's called conservatorship.
I wanted to see if the public guardian is following the rules. I walked into Villa Fontana, asked to see Gisela and another conserved woman. The staff called the county.
The resident is conserved by the county, and we have to follow the rules. They have a court order that puts them in charge of the resident.
The public guardian's office told me by phone that I couldn't see Gisela or the other woman until they performed a background check on me, and they instructed Villa Fontana to call the police.
Why call the police on me? What danger did I pose to anyone at the nursing home?
I think you and the public should feel good about that, because that means that the public guardian, acting as the conservator of individuals in any kind of residential facility, is thinking first of protecting that person's interest.
Oh, come on. What about me was a danger to anyone?
I introduced myself to the officer who responded. He didn't really understand why he was there. He gave me an incident card and left.
We absolutely want people to see other individuals, to have socialization, to be around family and friends, but it needs to be done in a way that isn't going to be alarming to them and that we know about.
Marcus Reardon says I got just a taste of the trouble he's received from the county. According to the court investigator, Gisela, despite her dementia, is capable of choosing a president. They made sure she's registered to vote. Marcus says she should be able to pick her own visitors and choose where she lives.
I was wondering if I'm still alive. Would they let me come home for Christmas like just Christmas Day.
Now, Marcus says his mother finally got a phone in her room so they can speak more often. He's made a couple of mistakes in fighting to regain control of his mother's care, failing to show up for 2 court dates. It's been a stressful time, and Marcus felt the deck was stacked against him. Now, by the way, the public guardian said it would take 2 days for that background check. It's been more than 2 weeks, and I'm still waiting. Nothing yet.
Yeah. You want to ask, were they protecting Gisela or themselves? It's bizarre.
You know, their rules are absolute. They are in total control, and they should be able to see people like me. You ought to be able to walk in without prior notice and see someone. Right. It's their choice.
It's heartbreaking to hear her speak about this. Right. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan, very much.
Well, a Bay Area woman is going back home tonight after an ABC 7 News I-Team investigation uncovered local officials violating a federal regulation.
That's right. As a result, now the county is changing policy and moving the woman back into the home that she never wanted to leave. The I-Team's Dan Noyes is here now with the results of his investigation.
Well, Dan and Cheryl, in past I-Team reports this month, families complained that the Santa Clara County Public Guardian's Office moved a loved one out of their home against their wishes. But now the county has had to bring an elderly woman home after we proved they broke federal lending rules. This is the ride Lily Scalia's family has been waiting for her to take.
She's coming home to her house after 2 years.
The 92-year-old is conserved by Santa Clara County. The public guardian took control of Scalia's estate and decision-making in 2009 after family members were accused of taking advantage of her financially, allegations the family members deny. Scalia was moved out of her house in October 2010 and has been living in an assisted living facility.
She would say, I want to go home. I want to go home every time I went to visit.
In November 2010, the county took out a reverse mortgage on Scalia's house to help pay for her care.
Is it proper in your mind to take out a reverse mortgage, the county to do that, when the person is not living in the home?
My understanding of the requirement of reverse mortgage is that you need to live in the home and be there in order to have a reverse mortgage.
According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, a person must live in the home in order to qualify for a reverse mortgage, with the exception that the person may be out of the home for only 12 consecutive months. Scalia was gone more than 2 years.
We certainly wouldn't want to violate any HUD or banking regulations.
After the ABC 7 News I-Team exposed what the county was doing, Scalia has been moved back into her home.
We got a hold of ABC 7, the I-Team, and that's when things started really moving.
Scalia pointed out her house to the driver when she arrived home. Earlier in the day, a new bed arrived and a caregiver moved in. The county spent Scalia's money to fix up the outside of the house. The garage got a fresh coat of paint, as did the front porch. But Scalia wasn't allowed to walk in the front door. Instead, the county rushed her into the garage to avoid our camera. Her niece says she's just happy her aunt is home.
It's going to be a lot of fun seeing her in her own house, listening to her music. She loves listening to her records.
Our story has forced a change in policy at the Public Guardian's Office. Now the head of the department will have to personally approve reverse mortgages. Puma tells us her family plans to celebrate Thanksgiving at her aunt's house. If you think a government agency isn't doing what it's supposed to, call us at 1-888-40-I-TEAM or email me through our website, abc7news.com. Dan, Cheryl?
That woman was so upset when she wasn't in her home.
Absolutely. Home now.
Thank you.
Fantastic story. Congratulations on that.
We're told to protect our assets with things like living trusts and wills. But a case in Santa Clara County is raising questions about when your plans can be changed by someone else, possibly against your wishes. ABC 7 News I-Team reporter Dan Noyes has been looking into the role of the public guardian, and he has this report tonight.
In early February, 85-year-old Grace Alema was in a Santa Clara County Superior courtroom surrounded by people arguing over what she wants.
She shared those wishes to the public guardian's office.
At the center of the dispute is where she's going to live and what will happen to her assets. She currently stays in an assisted living facility in Cupertino paid for by Medi-Cal, but owns this house in San Jose.
This is a family home. I've been living here for 30 years.
Grace's son Anthony has been fighting the county over its control of his mother. Stacks of legal documents on the dining room table show 5 years of court filings. Grace Alema was conserved by Santa Clara County in 2008 after a court found the accusations credible that her son and now deceased husband Silvio misused her money and were not taking care of her.
Lies and insinuations that have no fact base.
The only reason why it's in this situation right now, in my opinion, is because because the father and the son pushed it to this point.
Deborah Kemp holds the power of attorney for Grace Alamo's health care. Kemp met Grace while dating Anthony Alamo. She and Grace remained friends even after the couple split up. Kemp says Grace asked for her help because she didn't think Anthony had her best interests in mind.
He was unwilling to take care of her the way that a son should.
She points out that Grace filed for a temporary restraining order against her own son in 2008. In court filing, she wrote, "About 2 months ago, he shoved me. He makes fun of me because I stutter sometimes. He has told me I belong in a nursing home and that I am not well." Grace ultimately dropped her request for the restraining order.
My mother loves me. We care about each other. I visit her all the time.
The biggest fight has been over the Alamo Family Trust, set up in 2005. The only asset is the family home. Anthony Alamo believes the special needs clause in the trust protects the house from being liquidated to care for his mother's medical needs. But the court removed him as trustee because of a conflict of interest, that Anthony was to inherit the house when his mother dies.
It's an unprotected legal document. It's been assaulted by the court system and by the Public Guardian's Office.
Anthony appealed being removed as trustee, but the 6th Appellate Court ruled against him. Now the county wants to take out a reverse mortgage on the home to move his mother back there and to pay for her medical care.
The reverse mortgage is almost a death sentence when it comes to the home, because once the reverse mortgage is put on, once the person passes away, then you have the situation where the house must be sold.
Sean Parr has represented Anthony Alamo. He says taking out a reverse mortgage goes against one of the reasons Grace Alamo created the trust.
It's very clear that her intent at the time she drafted the trust was to be put on Medi-Cal and was to protect whatever assets she may or may not have had at the time to be given to her heirs.
Anthony Alamo gave us this video of his mother.
I don't want a reverse mortgage on the house.
The county contends the only way she can move home is with a reverse mortgage. Her son says she's in no condition to come back to the house. He thinks she will receive better care in assisted living.
The trust was about Miss Elaine and her desires, not about inheritance, not about what's going to happen after her death, and that is the primary issue in this case.
Tomorrow morning, Grace Alamo will have a chance to tell the judge where she wants to live. Anthony Alamo worries his mom might be too medicated to make a decision and to answer questions. And the county worries her son may have influenced her decision. We'll be there in court to tell you how it all plays out. For the I-Team, Dan Noyes, ABC 7 News.
An elderly San Jose woman and her son took on the Santa Clara County Public Guardian today in court and won.
Yeah, the county wanted them to take out a reverse mortgage on their home.
Dan Noyes is back with a follow-up to an I-Team investigation from last night at 11. Dan, what happened?
Oh, boy, it was something. Carolyn and Dan, today in court, Grace Alamo got a chance to set the record straight. She was confused at times by the questions and got emotional, but in the end, the judge heard her loud and clear. 85-year-old Grace Alamo owns this house in San Jose, but has been living in an assisted living facility in Cupertino, paid for by Medi-Cal.
And I like it there.
What do you like about it?
Because it's all my friends.
The Public Guardian's Office filed a motion to take out a reverse mortgage on her house, which would mean she would have to move back there. The county says Grace had expressed a desire to move home over the years, and the only way to afford that would be a reverse mortgage.
The funds from the reverse mortgage would be spent on our home maintenance, her care, property maintenance, and things of that nature.
Grace Alamo was conserved by Santa Clara County in 2008 after a court found the accusations credible that her son Anthony and now deceased husband Silvio misused her money and were not taking care of her. Anthony Alamo denies any wrongdoing. He still lives in the family home and has been fighting the county over control of his mother and the house. He says the family trust prohibits taking out a reverse mortgage.
Who are the most important people in your life?
The most important people? My son.
With questions from 3 attorneys, Grace told the court where she wanted to live.
Would you like to move home or stay where you're at?
I like to say where my head.
With that, Judge Thomas Kane ruled against the county's motion.
I'm persuaded most by her statements here today, and so consequently, I am going to determine that she should remain where she is at the moment.
At least he showed me that the system works after 5.5 years in the court system, and we can get some relief.
Anthony Alamo tells us he plans on finding ways for his mother to visit the house, including buying a van to transport her. The county still maintains control of Grace's estate, though, and if she changes her mind about moving home, this will most likely wind up back in court again.
An ABC7 I-Team investigation is getting results for residents of the state's assisted living facilities. Tomorrow, a Senate committee takes up a bill to ensure those residents are allowed to have visitors freely. ABC7 News I-Team reporter Dan Noyes is back with a follow-up. Dan?
Well, Cheryl and Carolyn, it seems like something that should be a basic right, being allowed to see family and friends whenever you want. But one South Bay public guardian severely restricted access to some of their clients, even called the police after I tried to visit. But now, that's changing. Sitting, talking, and eating cherries is not something Linda Kincaid thought she would ever be able to do with Gisela Reardon.
When I came in to visit Giselle, and I was told that I had to get off the property.
Kincaid is an advocate against elderly abuse and says Reardon was isolated by the Santa Clara County Guardian's Office for 2 years.
When Giselle wasn't allowed visitors, she believed that she was in prison and she didn't understand why.
In 2010, Santa Clara County conserved Reardon, took over her personal and medical decisions. A court determined her family could not care for her and ordered the public guardian to step in. The county sold her house to pay for her care and moved Gisela into an assisted living facility. Her son recorded Gisela last year talking about being conserved.
They have done it to me, taken everything. Why? I'm not a criminal.
Kincaid was able to see Reardon a few times last spring before getting kicked out of the facility. She says 18 members of her advocacy group also tried to call and set up visits. All were denied. So in October, I decided to visit Reardon. Walked into San Jose's Villa Fontana and asked to see her. The staff said the public guardian would not let me visit, and after checking with the county, they called the police. The officers seemed confused why they were there and left without taking any action. We spoke with Lee Poland, director of the Santa Clara County Department of Aging and Adult Services, in October.
We absolutely want people to see other individuals, to have socialization, to be around family and friends, but it needs to be done in a way that isn't going to be alarming to them and that we know about.
But advocates say the county doesn't need to know. They point to the Notice of Conservatees' Rights, a document in every conserved person's court file. Unless a court limits or takes away a right, like visits from family or friends, then the conservatee retains the right to have these visitors. And California Code Title 22 states a resident has a right to have his or her visitors, including ombudspersons and advocacy representatives, permitted to visit privately during reasonable hours and without prior notice.
Isolation is not something we in California want to have for our elderly.
Assemblyman Bob Wykowski of Fremont is sponsoring a bill clarifying conservatees' rights. It prohibits conservators from controlling their clients' right to receive visitors, telephone calls, and mail.
In the twilight of someone's life, we want to make it as comfortable for everybody to have the visits from the loved ones and visit from their friends.
The Association for the State's Public Guardians and Conservators opposes the bill, and their spokeswoman declined an on-camera interview because we wouldn't provide a list of questions in advance and agree to ask only those questions. No follow-ups allowed. But that's against ABC7 News policy. The association did provide a statement saying its members take very seriously the difficult negotiation of balancing an individual's right to visit with whom they wish and the conservator's responsibility to protect an older or dependent adult conservatee from abuse.
Since you did that story, Giselle is now allowed the rights that she should have had all along.
After our investigation, Santa Clara County reconsidered its position. Kincaid and other advocates stopped by about once a week to see her, including taking these pictures at an ice cream social. They say Reardon has perked up. Kincaid hopes Wykowski's bill will have the same results for conservatees across California.
Now Giselle can actually have normal relationships with people in the outside world, and she's becoming much more interactive, much more social.
The bill has already passed the Assembly. It will be heard tomorrow in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We will be at the hearing tomorrow and keep you updated on the bill's progress. This story started with a tip to our I-Team hotline, and you can call us at 1-888-40-I-Team or email me through our website, abc7news.com. Just click on I-Team.
I know it took a long time to make this happen, but she looks a lot happier.
She is a lot happier just having her friends and family there and being more social. You know, it helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great work. Thank you, Dan.
An update now on an ABC 7 News I-Team investigation. A bill to strengthen the personal rights of people under the protection of a public guardian passed the State Senate Judiciary Committee today. An I-Team investigation uncovered a case in which the Santa Clara County Public Guardian was restricting visitors to people under its care without a court order, even calling the police on I-Team reporter Dan Noyes when he tried to visit one such woman. The bill, sponsored by Assemblymember Bob Wykowski of Fremont, clarifies a conservatee's right to have visitors, phone calls, and personal mail. The next step is a vote by the full Senate.